Alright, here we go, as promised. Module 2, and we're going to do a little bit more with layers this week. Try and get you a little bit more comfortable. Layers are pretty easy to understand. It's really just like looking through sheets of transparency. Of course, the sheet that's on top is going to obscure what's below it and affect the overall appearance of the photograph. And it has tremendous advantages. The way we can edit a photograph is Photoshop makes things much easier and much more capable. So let's just look at some basics that we have here. This is the layers panel, and I'm gonna pull that out of the dock, and I'm gonna make it larger. And nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm gonna go ahead and make my thumbnails larger through the layer panel options, so you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so let's just look at some of the basics. There's some of the things that we can do. As it said in the module, of course, we can name our layers, which is great for organizational purposes. You can see we have a layer that says polishes, and it actually has polishes on that layer. You can see we have a couple of unnamed layers, and we have a background layer. We have a number of different ways that we can use the information on a layer. Once we have information in layers, we can move the information in the layer individually. We can easily cut information away from a photograph or add information to a photograph. Here we have a layer 2, that has one of these emery boards in it. So if I grab my move tool, that's going to be V on my keyboard, I click and drag, I can move just that portion of the photograph. If I want to, because I have layers, it makes it easy for me to actually just simply get rid of that information. I could just simply trash that with some of these. Obviously, we have a whole bunch of different cursor icons at the bottom here. That's one of the things that we can do with it. So I just deleted that layer. So we really have a lot of functionality that we can add to, or not really functionality, excuse me. We have a lot of capabilities that we can take advantage of with the layers panel. So we can, of course, name to the layers to organize. We can remove portions of the photograph that have been isolated into layers. We can also change the order of the layers to change the appearance of a photograph. If I want that emery board to be in front of the polishes, I can do that, and that actually worked out pretty well there. I thought that might actually, yeah, well, that problem you can see there, we kind of lucked out early on. That doesn't look too bad right there. We could even move this kind of texture background. Not sure how this technologically themed background works with the polishes, but whatever. I'll actually obscure the layers below it now. So we can really change the appearance very easily because we have layers. Now, sometimes we want to change. We want to look at how a layer or an image might look like without actually deleting layers. I removed that emery board before by deleting the layer. I can actually just hide layers by toggling the visibility icon. That's what we have there. So very easily we can get an idea of what a photograph looks like without particular layers affecting it. So lots of great flexibility here with layers. Very easy to create layers. Let's just talk about creating layers. We have a whole bunch of icons down here at the bottom. Let me go through them. I showed you the delete. Of course, it looks like the handy trash can icon. This is our new layer icon. This, if you're familiar with other Adobe products, will also stand for layers or pages in other programs. This is our groups. I'll show you that in a moment. And then these we're going to worry about in later sections. But if we want to create a new layer to add new information, it's very easy to do so. We can click the new layer icon here. We now have a new layer. We can also add new layers through the flyout menu on the layer panel. We can even name it. We'll call this some layer. We can also come over here. We have so many different ways that we can do things in Photoshop. We can also come up here into the menus and tell it that we would like a new layer. So lots of different ways that we can add a layer. I had a friend that once told me that for any one thing in Photoshop that you'd like to do, there are a dozen different ways to actually get there, and they're all correct. And I think that's very true. So very easy to add layers, delete layers, move layers, as you've seen. Let's talk about the different types of layers that we have now. There are 3 different types of layers that I want you to be concerned with right now. And 2 of them exist in this photograph right here. We have a background layer. That's the first type of layer. This layer is made up of pixel information, and it actually has to appear on the bottom. You see that it's locked. I can't actually move that above the other layers. It is designated the background layer. It cannot have certain things applied to it. We can't apply a layer mask to it or effects that you'll learn about later in this semester. And so it's limited somewhat in its capabilities. Now, these are what are called image layers. Image layers are also pixel information. They can have transparency. That's what this checkerboard means, if you haven't figured that out yet over here. They can have masks and effects applied to them. Again, you'll learn more about those in future semesters. So background layers and image layers are fairly similar in that they both just contain basic pixel information. However, image layers you can do a little bit more with. You can move them, you can apply effects to them, things of that nature. Now, how do you create the different types of layers? You can actually very easily convert a background layer to an image layer just simply by changing the properties. I can just double click on this background layer and then tell it I want it to be a new layer. I click OK. It's now an image layer and can be moved around. Yeah, that's all right. Just keep on going back. I want that to be. Oh, actually, no. I'm going to do that again. I want to actually show you how to manually do that. So step forward. It's still an image layer. The converse of that is I just showed you can change a background layer into an image layer. Now, how do you turn a image layer into a background layer? That's actually quite easy, but it's a little bit of a misnomer the way they do this. You're actually going to go into Layer, New, Background from Layer. You're not actually creating anything new, but you are creating a new background layer from this layer that is selected. So I'll click on that, and now you can see that it has gone back to the background layer. The other layer I wanted to show you is the text layer, and it's very easy to identify. I clicked on my text tool. It's going to load my text options. Now I'm going to click on in this photograph, and you can see that a layer has been added. Very easy to identify that this is a text layer because we have a big T for the thumbnail. And of course then text layers contain text, and they can be moved around to manipulate things. It's actually kind of that's one of the fun things you can do with layers, where you can obscure letters or parts of an image in one area of the photograph but allow them to show through in others. So good example there of what layers can do for us. But text layers, very easy to understand. Alright, the next thing I want to show you is how we have these photographs that we have all these layers with, but sometimes we need to actually collapse them to save file space. You can look at how big the file would actually be. Before last week, we actually saw how we had a larger number on the left and a smaller number on the right. Now we have the flip. This is how large it would be without the layers. This is how large it is with all of the layer information. So I'm going to show you how we can actually condense some of this layer information. So let's say we actually like this polishes the text in this layer 2, the way it looks. We don't think that we're going to mess with it anymore, and that's key, because if you want to continue to manipulate the image, you want your layers. If you think that you're done, then you can merge the information. Once you've merged the information, there's no magic distribute to layers function that then takes the information and distributes it magically to new layers. So once you've done this, it is done. We have a couple different options. We can merge layers, that's the selected ones like I have right now. We can merge visible, which is everything because you can see the visibility icons are available on everything. And then we have flatten image. Flatten image is just going to flatten everything. Merge visible is going to merge those layers that are visible, which right now actually happens to be everything. And then the merge layers, because I have those 3 selected, it's going to merge what I have selected. So I'm going to click on that, and now that is all one layer. And you can see that in the thumbnail, the text and the emery board, everything is all in there. Again, no magical distribute everything to layers button. If I save this, this is now all pixel information in one layer, and I've destroyed, the little the pixels underneath this text, for instance, that is gone forever, that emery board. I can't get that back easily anyway. I can fake it. It's a little more complicated. So you really want to make sure that you're certain that you want to do that. Now let's talk about some organizing features. I'm going to undo that so I have those layers back. I had not saved, so I had that. You might notice that, of course, this layer is purple. We can actually color code our layers. So I have a purple layer here for the polishes. Maybe I decide that I want this emery board layer to actually be purple as well. I can just, wrong thing. I'm going to go up to my flyout menu and tell it I want, oh goodness, what am I doing here? I want to right click. That's what I'm doing wrong. I can get this way as well. I'm sorry, I'll show you both ways now that I've really confused everybody. I can get to the layer properties by going to the flyout menu, layer properties. But what I really like to do most of the time is right click. Right click, I get the contextual menu. You'll see me use contextual menus a lot. It's called a contextual menu because the menu will change based on the context of what I'm clicking on, right clicking on. So I'm going to choose my layer properties, and you can see here I can tell it I want the color, I want it to be violet, so that I can have these organized now, kind of together. Now right now I only have 5 layers, really not that big of a deal, but I've worked on Photoshop projects that have had upward of 100 to 150 layers. So this actually is a very useful feature for organizing. I have 100 layers in a particular project. I have several layers that are actually similar. These thumbnails, I have them pretty large right now, but if it's a big photograph, there can actually be really tiny pieces of information that are not going to show up on this checkerboard. You have no idea what you're doing. So labeling the layers with appropriate names, not layer 2, and then using some of these organizational tools that I'm showing you, color here, will help you navigate your files later on. Will help you more easily manipulate those photographs. So in addition to color coding, I can also add layer groups, and that's these little folders down here. I'm going to click on the folder, and you can see here I now have a layer group that has jumped in. Now right now nothing is in the group, but I can actually grab layers, move them into the group. And this is really handy for, again, files that have many layers. Right now just 5. By the end of the semester you're going to be creating some pretty big projects. I can then collapse and expand my groups. Very nice organizational feature. Let's say I'm actually working on a restoration project, and this group is actually, it pertains to just the information of a person's coat. It is now the coat group. So you can see that there are, if you have 50, 60 layers, which some of you will do that on your restoration projects, these layer groups are going to be very handy for you. So definitely take advantage of those. There is a little bit in the chapter that is some basic selections. I'm not going to demo that too much. I think it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but we are going to get more into selections next week, the next module. So I look forward to showing you that. With layers, selections are one of the more powerful things about Photoshop, one of the basic cornerstones that make it a fantastic program for photo editing.